Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Welcome to The Sailing Show, the monthly podcast that will steer and inspire you along your sailing journey. I'm Abby Ehler, a 3-time round-the-world racer and shoreside manager with America's Cup and Sail GP. I'm also a director of the Magenta Project. I'll be chatting to a wide range of women within the sailing community, including Olympic champions, ocean racers, change makers and up-and-coming champions. Whether you're aspiring to race around the world, compete at the Olympics or just need a spark of inspiration, The Sailing Show will have something for you.
3, 2, 1 and hold!
This is Season 4, Episode 9 of The Sailing Show, and on this edition I'll be chatting to 3 different guests who are related to sailing and fitness in varying forms. My first guest is Joy Fitzgerald, who is a keen keelboat racer and a personal trainer based in Hamble, the UK. We'll be chatting about training programmes specific to sailing. My second guest is Kelly Lees from Durban, South Africa, who is a personal trainer and works shoreside in the sailing industry, currently for a TP52 campaign, and we discuss the sailing industry as a whole and different ways of getting into training. My final guest is Hayley Nixon, a professional paddler and biokineticist, also from Durban, South Africa, to chat about sports injury prevention and what to look out for in an upper body dominant sport. I'm joined by Joy Fitzgerald, who is a personal trainer at the Pinnacle Gym in Hamble. Joy, thank you very much for joining me.
Hi, yeah, nice to be here.
I have just finished a workout, so you'll have to apologies for any heavy breathing that goes on in the background during this interview. But Joy, I thought we'd start with just let's hear a bit about you, a bit about, I know you're a sailor yourself, but you're also now very involved in fitness. So tell us a bit about how you've got where you are today.
Yeah, so I grew up in Scotland, sailed with my dad from a young age, and I got into fitness really, really early on. I studied sports therapy at college when I was 20, and I've always sailed since then. So most recently sailed on RAN for Fastnet Nationals, so won that, which was really good. Fitness is super important for all aspects of sailing. I've just kind of kept it going and amalgamated the two as I've gone, and now it's my job.
Yeah, and Pinnacle's quite specialised in a way. I mean, it is, I guess, tailored towards sailors because of where the location is. We're here in Hamble on the south coast, which is a bit of a mecca of sailing. I mean, it's been great to see that sport-specific training has come into a gym, and it's, Dan and Andy, who are managing the gym here, are fantastic people, but as it brought a lot more sailors, opened their eyes a bit more to sport-specific training, do you think?
Yeah, I think over the last few years, like even at kind of club level and stuff, everything's become more performance-orientated, and I think people now are seeing the benefits of training in the gym, and it's less the sort of let's go and have pints after sailing and, let's really take our fitness seriously now. So you see a lot more of that, and we've been able to build a business around that change in the industry as well.
It is definitely changing. You get that impression with the way the sport's going. So let's talk about fitness for sailing. What do you consider are the most important factors when it comes to our sport?
So probably endurance is one. When we go out in the water, we're out there for at least 4 hours, and then when you're doing offshore, you can be out there for at least, up to 40 days. You're out there for a long time each time. So having a level of endurance to get you through the day is super important. I look a lot at injury prevention as well. Our sport is physical and so variable in each kind of every element that you're going to get out there. So you're not lifting the same way each time, you're not pulling something the same way each time, so you put your body under a lot of stress, and so making sure that you are as structurally sound, shall we put it, as possible, that's a big factor in that as well.
I guess also because we're on an unstable platform for the most of the time, and there is a lot of stop-start, which is very unique in most sports. It tends to be quite levelised, I guess, in terms of output, but this is it can be long periods of nothingness while you sit on the rail crouched over.
It, getting cold.
And then, times of intense energy if you're going for a kite hoist or something, where it's probably like 30 to 40 seconds on a 40 to 50 foot boat. So, as you said, pretty dynamic. Yeah.
So just kind of making sure that your body's the best equipped it can be for that, because it is so unique in that way. And
so we just touched on it a little bit there, but, it is strength in there and aerobic ability, agility. It must be many different factors, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have enough of all three of them, to be honest. People listening to this obviously are probably sailors as well. So we've all started sailing at such a young age, and I think the agility comes with knowing a boat and knowing how it moves. And so for me, I don't typically coach like my sailing athletes in agility. I focus primarily on the strength and the aerobic side of it, and then let the agility kind of come with time on the water, really. So strength is the main focus for me.
Okay, and do you think there are other specific training programs relevant to roles on the boat, or do you think
there can be? Yeah, you look at a sort of now a 40 footer, like a performance thing, like the fast 40s, the TPs. You have pedestals on board, so I train. If I've got a grinder, they're going to train slightly differently to somebody who's in a trimming role or a pit role or something. So they're the workhorse of the boat, the engine. So they have to have a much higher output than anyone else. So I will specify programs.
And I was going to say, are there any sailing specific exercises that you've incorporated? Either, you've got some pretty specific equipment here in this gym, but talk us through some of the sports specific exercises.
So like we touched on, like grinding and stuff, we have 2 grinding machines here. So I do a lot of that with my clients. We do a lot of sled pushing and pulling. Any sort of row variation for me is a specific sailing exercise. So any pulling, and again, shoulder health and stability is really important, and I would put that into any sailing client's program.
Okay. So push-pull, that tends to be a lot of the... and I guess a lot of the overhead, so if you're hoisting... There's those new machines down in this gym, I don't know what they are.
Oh, the skiers.
What are they? Skiers?
Yeah.
Why are they called skiers?
I think it kind of mimics cross-country skiing.
Ah, okay. But they're almost like mirror the hoisting a halyard, don't they?
Yeah,
it's pretty...
they do. And you can, it's just one pivot point, so you can pull that any direction, really.
Okay.
It's cool.
And the other one that's quite unique here is that when you're on the flat bench doing
the prone
a pull.
row, yeah.
So that because then you're not using your legs, I guess, so you're just using your back muscles.
Just using your upper body strength. So that one is really specific. In fact, we had some of the Sail GP trials here, and they all do, like, that's one of their tests as well, as the prone row.
Okay. And one of the things, obviously, besides your actual training, is your nutrition and your supplements. I mean, how important is all that to the bigger picture of your physical health?
Yeah, so diet is obviously number one. You got to get your diet right. Like any athlete, you've got to eat well to perform well. So I put that's where all the focus should be, really, is getting your nutrition right. Supplementation should come secondary to that. So what I like to take is protein. We can all have a bit more protein. So any protein shakes, things like that. And then a good quality fish oil.
Okay.
I think is good joint health.
Keep joint health.
Yeah. But apart from that, I'm not a huge one on supplements. I think you can get everything you need through your diet.
Yeah.
So, unless you don't eat veg, then you should be fine.
And one of the questions that I always find hard with fitness and training is when you're away at an event. So you're doing, for example, you're away doing a Fast 40 event or TP52 or whatever it is you're doing. I mean, I never know whether I should continue the training and do a morning session or an evening session, as well as do a full day's sailing. Or, I mean, how do you know is it just about your body telling you what's right, or...
A lot of it's your body, but like I said, you're out on the water for 4 hours at least. So for me, I would not recommend training on a sailing day, especially on a boat like that. You're using a lot of strength and focus as well. So for me, on those days, I would focus on mobility and prehab exercises. So getting up in the morning, yoga's a really good way to start the day before a race. And then any sort of the little shoulder exercise you could do, a little bit of pull, rotations, things like that. That for me would be enough. And then make the focus of the day the race.
So that you're not overtired.
Yeah. But I know it's difficult if you're away back-to-back events. Suddenly a month's gone by and you've not done any training. It's a difficult balance to find.
Yeah.
But for me, time off sailing, a week off, that's when you hit the gym hard, and then you go to your sailing event, and that's what you've trained for, trained to be there. So
yeah, okay, good to know. So yoga sessions in the morning, or swimming,
mobility,
a bit of swimming,
exactly.
Would be good.
Yeah, get your joints moving. Yeah,
right,
mobility is key.
Cool. Okay. Well, anything else that you wanted to add? I mean, I often get asked by some of the young girls that are coming through Keelboat Academy, or just leaving uni here, and they're really keen to pursue sort of a career in sailing, if there is such a thing, or just to pursue the more professional side of sailing. I mean, what would your advice be to them about from a fitness side?
You can't be strong enough. I know the gym can be a bit of a scary place sometimes, and it still feels very male dominated, but just get down the gym and get a good strength program, and don't be afraid to ask for help as well. Come down to Pinnacle and we'll help you out there. But yeah, definitely get as strong as you can, because that's the most important thing on these performance keelboats now. And how, as women, we're going to get ahead there is by focusing on our strength. Yeah,
no, I think you're right. It's definitely, as you said, with the sport in general is becoming more and more performance. So if we look at the very top of the sport, I mean, it is just so physical, and that's not gonna change.
No.
So it is about being as fit, as strong as you can, and being more likely to get those rides.
Exactly. The rewards are there if you want to train hard, and you can do it.
Yeah, and I think, as you said, I mean, this gym here, it can be quite intimidating to some, but I think once you've broken through that barrier, as with anything, the staff here are fantastic, very encouraging, and it's great to have a gym that's sport specific and can really help with your upper body strength, which is so critical, I guess, in our sport. So
that's it. Yeah,
brilliant. Thank you very much, Joy.
Thank you, Abby.
Thanks for your time, and looking forward to seeing you out on the water, and good luck with your laser.
Thank you.
So Kelly, thank you very much for joining me today. We're both here in Porto-Cervo. We're here trying to go sailing in the 2B52s, but today has been a little windy, as you can probably tell by the background noises that are probably going to kick in. Kelly, you're working shoreside with one of the teams here, making sure they're all kept happy.
Yeah.
So thanks very much for joining me. The episode we're focusing on is fitness and sailing, and you're someone who has really taken fitness seriously over the last few years. You're related to sailing, so we're going to try and piece together the two. Maybe you'd like to kick off a bit about how you've got to today in terms of your fitness journey, and what's brought you to being at the top of your game, if you like.
So I did the getting into fitness probably there's sort of two avenues people get into the fitness industry. One is their own sort of experiences, generally from being either very unfit or overweight, or they've been in sports since kids, and then it's just something they're comfortable with, so they go in that way. Mine was from being unfit and overweight. I did a lot of sports as a kid. But being 43 and in South Africa in the 90s, sport as a industry or career wasn't really something that was on offer, so didn't really think anything of it. And then a couple of years ago, after the America's Cup, we went back to the UK and very quickly piled on the weight. And when I got on the scales and weighed 75 kgs, I'm not a very big girl, I'm only 5'3", I think I am. I realised that, I need to do something about that. And then just slowly lost the weight, got into the gym, and then realized that I really did love it and I wanted to help others. And that's pretty much, that was about 7 years ago. So I also did it being older, which is a big thing. You know, for me, luckily enough, our son, he's 20 now, so that really wasn't a contributing factor to the discipline side of things for me. But it's tough to try as a parent, and especially when you've got partners who travel, and people listening to this in the sailing industry, you've probably got that. To maintain any kind of routine is the hardest. But unfortunately, to get anywhere, it's the routine and discipline that you need, and it's finding a way to do that.
Yeah. But I think for anyone that's kind of relatively new to the industry, and perhaps as you were finding your way in the fitness world, it can be a little bit overwhelming in terms of what's available. There's, you know, different styles. What should you be training? I think it can be a very daunting process, especially for younger people, and I think more so for girls who are really perhaps find the gym a bit of a scary place. They wouldn't have a clue what sort of exercises they should be doing. I mean, what's your view of the industry, and what sort of advice could you offer?
Yeah. My biggest thing is whenever I have someone who wants to either get fitter or lose weight, I find out what their true goal is. You've got to find out what your fitness goal is. And I think once you don't have to talk to anybody about that, but writing it down, then you can look, is it strength that you want to, or do you want to increase cardiovascular? Both ways, if you want to do that, your Globo gyms are the best way to start, in my opinion. They're cheap, they've got fitness classes, and you can go to the spin class, you can go to the legs, bums and tums class. You'll get taught very, very, very basic ways to just start to get into there and get body confident again and just trusting yourself. Then you will start to change and start to feel, okay, this is the avenue I want to do. I don't like weights, or I don't want to do heavy weights. In my case, it was the heavier the bar got, the happier I was. So, whereas I know there's a lot of people, especially girls that I know, they're like, it just doesn't interest them. Mm-hmm. So yeah, find out what it is that you want to increase first. Is it your strength training or is it your fitness? Then go down to your local Globo gym and get into the classes. It's a safe environment to start. Then you can start to explore.
And so if you're looking for that next step, so say you've had that sort of base, the introduction, you want to be sailing professionally, you're trying to get those rides, on the circuits, and you touched on it a little bit about the strength training, and I know we've talked about this before, about having a fundamental base and the importance of that, and it's sometimes lost, especially with women and girls who are perhaps just have a misconception about strength training. So I mean, I understand why the base is there. I mean, it really is about the building blocks and starting from a base. But in your opinion, what is the importance of having a strong base, the strength element of training?
So for women with strength training, there's a couple of factors. Obviously, with regards to if you're using strength training as a accessory to your sport, it's a massive prehab. So you're really strengthening ligaments, tendons, so that when you are out there doing the sports that you love, like sailing, where you can literally be thrown from one part of the boat to the other, a rope can yank on you. Those joints and all of the musculature that holds those together, they're strong, they know how to deal with sudden load. So that in itself is one of them. If you cannot find any other reason to get into strength training, that should be your fundamental reason, is just prehab and injury prevention. On top of that, for women, strength training, it increases our bone density. That is something that we tend to really, as we get older, miss, that we lose our bone density. So weight training as we get older is really, really important. And the other last thing with weight training is understanding how to move your body. when you're trying to move a load consciously and you can do it under control, if you're forced to do that all of a sudden on a boat, the natural instinct to do it in the right form is there. So something simple as the closest thing I can put related to on a boat would be, say, if you're doing sled pulls, so a really heavy sled pull, where you're pulling on that rope and you're doing it in a controlled environment, but then you're on the boat and you're pulling on that rope and it yanks off you, your body instinctively knows how to react to that urgency of trying to remedy the problem that's in front of it. So that's a really, really good way. Understanding how your body moves is really, really good.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. I think just speaking from experience, the deadlift, sailing on the offshore boats where you're having to stack sails, something like the Volvo race where it is legal to stack and you're lifting heavy wet sails, and it just sort of reminded me as you said it that when you go to lift one of those sails, it's just so easy that your form can fail when you're tired. But just as you said, having those cues, the muscle memory of what it feels like to do a good lift certainly kicks in when you need it offshore. So I think, yeah, that's a really valid point there. So that kind of leads me on to my next question, which was to touch on CrossFit. So CrossFit is a style of training, if you want to call it that, something that I got involved with when it first kind of came into being back in 2008, living in Australia, where it really took off. And I loved it just because it is so variable. You don't have to think about a routine. So you don't have to plan a program. You're doing it a lot, amongst like-minded, and it's scaled to you as an individual, which I really liked. And I thought it was such a good general fitness, which fits well with sailing because you're moving weird shaped objects in weird movement patterns. So I could really see a benefit for it. But I mean, what's your experience with CrossFit? How would you describe it?
Yeah. And CrossFit is, so I obviously got into fitness through the normal PT level 3 route, worked in a Globo gym. And then my son wanted to get into fitness when he was 13. He wanted to go to the gym, and I gave him a push-up program and just said to him, if you can follow that program and become efficient at press-ups, then we'll go from there. And that's when CrossFit was starting to get a bit bigger in the UK. And the guys that I worked with, so CrossFit HQ have a workout of the day that comes out, and we would look at it and try and adapt it in a very, very basic gym, and we would do them. So we were sort of touching on it. And then Jago wanted to do CrossFit, wanted to get into the gym, but he was too young. And I knew that CrossFit did CrossFit for kids. That's where we went down to a CrossFit gym, and very lucky that gym, CrossFit Solent, has done so much for us over the years, got into it. So I then became a CrossFit Level 1 coach because we both got involved in it, and completely and utterly agree with you on the simplicity of being able to go to pretty much, there isn't a space in the world. I think probably Porticeva is the only one I've come across where there isn't some kind of CrossFit box. Box is what a CrossFit gym's called. And you can literally pitch up and you'll find a gym near you where you can walk in and just do their workout of the day. But exactly like you say, so CrossFit has 3 fundamentals: gymnastics, powerlifting, weightlifting, and then endurance or cardiovascular. So basically gymnastics is pull-ups, push-ups, the very basic things, air squats, pistols, that sort of stuff. That's very basic. So the weight training is obviously the Olympic lifts, snatch, clean and jerk, and the powerlifting movements of bench, squat, deadlift, press. And then endurance is, or monostructural as called, rowing, running. And all the workouts involve a version of that. And going to a good CrossFit gym where you do a introductory course, they'll teach you the fundamentals of how to squat, how to deadlift, how to pull up, how to push up, the fundamentals, and the fundamentals of the Olympic lifts as well. You know that from there you've been taught the base of movement. then you'd start joining the classes. And exactly like you say, everything is scalable. So you might walk into the gym and the workout of the day is ring muscle ups, a 60 kg snatch, and a 1 mile run. And you're like, there's no way in hell I can do that. You can. Everything is scalable in CrossFit. And I love CrossFit for that, is it is literally for everyone, and you can do it anywhere. And even if, like, we're in Porticheva now, there's no way that there's easy ways for us to be able to do a CrossFit style workout here, because it involves all aspects of fitness. So if you know of a local CrossFit box that's near you, and you want a more guided approach, then CrossFit's definitely a good place. Now, like everything, for every one good gym, there is one that isn't. I've dropped into gyms where the coaches don't coach, they don't instruct, they don't correct, to ones where you know you're being looked after. So if you've got a couple of boxes around you, go to all of them. Find which one you connect with. Find the ones that you walk in there and you go, I like this feeling. I like that. Go and watch their classes. You want one where you're being taught. You're paying. CrossFit gyms aren't necessarily cheap. So, yeah. And then once you've got there, like you say, they do teach you how to move load with speed, safely and efficiently, and how to move your body efficiently. That's the main thing. So, yeah, it's a great way to get into fitness.
Certainly a very an area to explore to give you that general fitness, and something that's quite similar in its requirements for your
Massively
club and club sailor and beyond.
If you are brand spanking new and you really want a guarded environment that's more community based, it's a great place to start. If you're still a little bit unsure and you're more reserved, then the Globo Gym is also a really good place to start, because it's a more inconspicuous place to be. CrossFit gyms can be quite intimidating, so if you walked in there the first time, it's like, whoa, okay. So a Globo Gym could be more of somewhere, it's just a softer approach. Just get yourself a bit more confident about your own body and what your body's capable of, and then you can take it further.
Well, I think that's been a great sort of delve into the fitness industry as a whole, and, you know, where to look, what are the pointers and avenues to follow. So thank you, Kelly, for brilliant information and for sharing your knowledge. And yeah, wish you all the best for upcoming events.
It's been awesome. Thanks very much. If anyone's got any questions, more than welcome to come and ask.
So how's the best way to follow you, Kelly? Are you on your...
Probably through Instagram or through Facebook. So on my Instagram page is Kelly and Moya. So Kelly and then MUMOYA. Or a Moya Fitness on Facebook. If you are already sort of fairly proficient with weightlifting, I do run a free program on my Moya Barbell page on Instagram. So the program I'm running at the moment is actually a very fundamentals program. So it's a lot about accessory training and conditioning as well. So if people already know how to Olympic lift or have a good understanding of it, it's also another way to start. Just start at either the positions program or the foundations one I'm running at the moment.
Okay, that sounds great. Brilliant.
So, yeah, I can do that.
I will check that out.
Awesome.
Thanks very much. See you. So my third and final guest today on our fitness specialised podcast is a colleague of mine who I used to train for triathlon many moons ago back in Australia. Her name is Hayley Nixon. Hayley, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, Abby. Thank you. It's great to be here. And who would have thought all these years later this is how we reconnect? So
yeah.
It's a privilege. Thanks for having me.
Great. And so I know people will be wondering, well, triathlon's not really related to sailing, but Hayley, you're a professional paddler. You've rowed in the Olympics, and you've also worked as a biokineticist. Is that the right word?
That is correct. It's a bit of a tongue twister. Yeah, that's it.
And so In my mind, both paddling and sailing are very similar in range of movement. We're both very upper body dominant. We work on a moving platform, so hence the connection. And I wanted to really take the chance to pick your brains about the injury prevention side and that area, which is really your speciality. So tell us a little bit about what you're up to now and your work in sports medicine.
Great, yeah, thanks, Abby. And I do totally agree. It's I suppose it's a transition we've all made. Certainly starting off with triathlon, then getting back into rowing for me, and then actually completely changing sports to paddling. At the moment, what I'm really doing is trying to marry what has been a 10-year career of biokinetics practice in a medical centre where I worked with a lot of sports injuries and orthopedic sort of surgeries and injuries, but then actually specialising in my sport and almost going professional into paddling. And now I'm actually at a stage in my career where I'm trying to race and travel the world for the sport, but also trying to teach paddlers and rowers actually subsequently about injury prevention, about mobility and flexibility, so that they can, race hard and race well, but actually look after their bodies and try and encourage a bit of longevity in their sport, so that they don't all end up, retiring young or never being able to do their sports again because they're riddled with injuries.
Well, I mean, indeed, and I think particularly being an upper body dominant sport, and in grinding is obviously quite similar to a canoe paddle movement. Talk a bit about your training methods for paddlers then. What are the fundamentals? Are there any sport specific exercises? Yeah, talk us through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a big part of it, exactly as you just explained, is the mechanism of overloading sort of small joints or complicated joints like the shoulders. As a bio, sometimes you dread the patient that phoned you and said, "I've got a shoulder injury," because you just knew how complicated that whole joint was, and it doesn't seem to follow textbook recovery like maybe a knee or a hip can. And what would often happen, I suppose, and I guess I would say in sports like sailing and certainly in paddling, is you're doing long mileage, you're doing high volume, and then on top of that you're adding a lot of load, and then again add to that unstable circumstances. So with us, trying to crash through waves or getting knocked by waves, obviously you guys the same with this gigantic boat moving underneath you in this open ocean, and we just tend to put too much stress on a joint that is asked for more consistently, but not always allowed to rest or recover, or not allowed to get to a really sort of productive strength. So certainly a big part of our training is strength sessions 3 times a week in the gym, at least twice, and sometimes even 3 times a week, depending on what phase the athlete is in. And the whole role for that is it's not because they want to, have big biceps and look good in the mirror. It's to try and stabilize that joint. It's to try and strengthen the upper back muscles. It's often to try and open up the anterior muscles, so to open up the chest. And then obviously to try and get the stabilizers around the shoulder joint, your rotator cuff muscles, all of those nice and strong, so that they can take the load and the power and obviously work more efficiently, when it comes to race day or big events.
Oh, that's really interesting, and I guess it's very easy to overlook these things, and so what you touched on there, it is a complex joint, and just being able to train those areas so that they're ready to deal with the loads and the dynamic movements that happen when we're out on the water. What is it that makes the shoulder so vulnerable to injury? Is it the complexity, or what exactly?
Yeah, sure, the complexity, but I think also just the nature of how the rotator cuffs, the biceps, your lats, how everything is all attaching into that area, and I think it's also inefficiency of movement or recruitment patterns. So I know with me and with lots of paddlers, we'll think paddling is an upper body and an arm sport, and it is, of course, but there's easier ways to make that whole joint and your whole body work together to support what is quite a small, little, fragile, complex unit. And so, for example, something like overloading a biceps tendon. So instead of maybe driving a bit with your legs and your hips and using your core to apply power or your body weight, people will just tend to load their biceps. And a little bicep in relation to your whole shoulder complex or your whole back complex is quite small. So if you continue to only load and only recruit that bicep, you're eventually going to wear down that chain, so that tendon. And then before you know it, you've got an aggravated bicep tendon or aggravated rotator cuff. You're getting referral pain from all sorts. And I think it's it's this idea of trying to understand the joint, understand how everything comes into it, and then be able to develop all the muscle structures around to get the most out of that joint. And certainly that's what we typically see. So poor technique, poor equipment use, and then just this consistent idea of overuse injuries developing from just hammering the same area without developing what else is there to support you.
Wow. I feel like I could pick your brains for a million hours over about, how you would put that into use, the recruitment of the bigger muscle groups to prevent that sort of overuse or, overstressing of those small joints and what sort of exercises you would do for that. But I think that's a whole nother...
but it's quite a mindset change because we all just want to do what we think is going to help. So to actually get, in my case, a paddler, and maybe you will be relating, to get somebody else to say, hey, can you leave that area alone for a while? Believe it or not, that's done enough. And try and get them to change their mindset and work their little scapular muscles. And they look at you like, oh, this is what grannies do in a Pilates exercise on a Sunday morning. And I'm like, no. This is going to stabilize you and unlock a whole new level of performance from you. But like you said, that's a whole new conversation.
So I guess just to try and nail that injury prevention and the chances of the overuse injuries, what would be your advice with regards to injury prevention? Is it the warm up? Is it coming into an event, going out on the water for a day?
It's quite a difficult question to sort of answer. Obviously, there's lots of variables. I mean, I think one thing particularly, if we looked at race day or like you say, warming up for an event, I'm such a believer in warm-ups and just activating the right muscles and getting a bit of mobility and blood flow through joints and through the muscles that you're going to demand work from. Because so typically, certainly in the sports I'm in, everyone will stand on the beach and chat about the race and chat about the conditions, but no one's actually warming themselves up. And then the whistle goes and they launch into 110%. And what then happens is you get a cold and static and maybe shortened muscle that then has to work under load and obviously can result in an acute injury right there on the spot. But I think what happens more often than not are these chronic injuries, these long-term things that are developing, just a little bit every day, a little bit more every week, and then they catch you on race day, or they catch you in your last session before race day. And that's when it's heartbreaking because that's when there's too much to undo. So I think, in answer to your question, two things. Absolutely, I think we need to change this idea of rushing into racing and rushing into training. Warming up is fundamental, and we can talk more about mobility drills for the shoulder and the core and the hip if you want to as well, of course. But I think secondly is looking for your markers that are indicating that you're heading towards an overuse injury. Obviously, pain, swelling, discomfort, lack of range of motion. When any of those things start happening in and around wrist, elbow, shoulder, something is coming. Your body is warning you. And I think sailors are probably some of the most hardcore athletes in the world, and it's a typical thing of athletes is to be tough. And you don't want the coach to know, or you don't want your own self to know that you might be getting an injury, so you keep it quiet. And there's not really room for just swallowing a few anti-inflammatories and hoping it goes away by the next day. So I think if we could look at those two elements, yes, warm your body up and prepare your body so that you don't shock it when you dive into heavy load, but also look for markers, and you can then prevent those injuries with things like staying strong in the gym and staying mobile. To some extent, the yogas, the Pilates, those kind of things that are allowing your body to, like we said, to tap into some of the stabilizers, some of the secondary exercises, movement patterns that will support what you actually want to do in your sport.
No, I think you've nailed it on the head there with being more mindful of our bodies, and as you said, being wary of those markers, because the small niggles can soon turn into bigger issues. So that's a very, very valuable point there. Well, I think it's a super interesting topic, and I think we could almost do a whole podcast just talking about movements.
For sure, we must.
Okay. Well, I'm going to take you up on that another time when we're not
anytime.
when we're not pulling your
when
time.
We start racing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Hels, thank you very much for just giving us those wonderful insights into injury prevention, and I would love to take this topic up again. I know you've got a big race tomorrow, so I won't keep you anymore, and we wish you all the best. And I'll make sure, I know you've got some great links to your warm-up drills that you do, so I'll make sure that I include that link in the podcast notes. Brilliant.
Yeah, please, and honestly, anything else, if you need links or references, and if we can establish a time to set up a more thorough chat, I'm in. I'd love it. It would be an honour. And it'd be great to learn from you guys as well. So anytime, Abby, it's such a pleasure.
Okay.
Cool.
Brilliant. Well, Hayley, thank you very much for joining me, and we wish you all the best for tomorrow.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, and safe travels to you. Thanks for distracting me today from my nerves.
Conversations from the world of women's sports. This is Wisp Sports Radio.
It's been a really interesting and varied look into fitness and sailing, the specifics of sailing requirements in our sport, the routes into training, and a brief look at injury prevention. Thank you to all three guests for their input and advice on the topic. And please continue to follow the Magenta Project on our website and social media channels. And to keep up to date on women's sport in general, not just sailing, check out Wisp Sports online and social media. Many thanks for listening, and join us again next month for another episode of The Sailing Show, hosted by the Magenta Project and Wisp Sports.